Welcome to our post-lunch sessions. If the caffeine that hopefully everyone's been consuming doesn't get you awake, hopefully these sessions will. We're going to spend some time seeing how customers use our developer platform in production, as well as go through a series of product launches for some of the new capabilities that we have in the platform. So very excited about that. My name's Ankit. I'm a developer at Palantir. I've been here for about 12 years. I'm really excited about these next speakers because as a developer, I really don't want to have to click buttons in a UI to do anything. I want code for every button that exists. And that's exactly what platform SDKs get you. And to hear more about that, welcome Debashish Das, software architect from SLB, and Tom from Palantir to hear more.
Welcome everyone to the session on platform APIs and SLB's digital sustainability. Okay, so we'll go over the challenges around emissions reporting. We'll go over the SLB's digital sustainability solution with a live demo, and then we'll hand it over to Tom, who will do a live demo of the platform API usage. So myself, I'm Debashish. I'm an architect working on digital sustainability in SLB, which is a set of solutions designed to help organizations decarbonize and scale new energy systems. Tom?
Hi everyone, I'm Tom. I've been at Palantir just coming up on 12 years, seems to be a bit of a theme actually. And I work on our platform APIs and SDKs. So after we've seen the amazing work that Debashish and his team have been doing, I'm going to be doing a live coding demo.
Cool. So decarbonizing hard-to-abate industries is quite complex and challenging. The journey starts with being able to measure and track emissions across the enterprise, collecting data from a wide variety of business and operational systems, all while complying with the security and data access controls of the enterprise. Data quality is key. So while we process and transform the data to compute the emissions, we have to make sure that data quality is controls are in place to guarantee that the reporting is accurate. And all of this has to be done in a way that is traceable and auditable at the finest level for regulatory and compliance reasons. So SLB's digital sustainability solution, it's a SaaS solution that is designed to help organizations in their decarbonization journey. The whole solution is built around the pillars of measure, plan, and act. So journey starts with being able to measure and track your emissions. So once the organizations have an assessment of their emissions, they can use the plan product to come up with various decarbonization pathways and compare different scenarios to see what is the optimum path to get to their emission reduction targets. So the platform helps the organizations in their journey and gets them to their goals. Under the covers, we leverage Palantir Foundry for this to solve this complex data gathering and processing problem. All while modeling the organization using the ontology and honoring the traceability, auditing, security, and quality controls. Once data lands in the ontology, we can then use the ontology APIs to deliver the data to our application, which is built and hosted outside of Foundry, and do the queries and extract insights out of the data. Using the APIs allows us to use Foundry as a core data infrastructure component of our overall platform. Given SLB's global scale of operations and customer base and the varying availability of cloud providers in different regions and data residency concerns, we have to build a cloud portable solution. That's where we leverage Foundry heavily. Being cloud portable, we can easily deploy into different regions. The data integration and processing capabilities of Foundry, combined with the ability to access using the API, it allows us to use Foundry to deliver a data-rich SaaS solution to our customers. Foundry DevOps and Marketplace, it allows us to create very well-defined data products that we can roll out seamlessly to our customers in that SaaS environment. Okay, demo on screen one, please. So what you see here is an application that has been built and deployed outside of Foundry and leverages the Foundry APIs to access and extract information from the data and deliver the insights that drive the end user workflows. So this application is completely integrated into SLB's digital ecosystem, which is a set of foundation services for authentication, authorization, and few other cross-cutting concerns. So this application is completely built and deployed outside of Foundry. So what you see here is a high-level view of this organization, which is a fictional organization created for demo purposes. All this data is notional data. So we see the operating structure of the organization in the context of emission reporting. What are their targets? And if we jump to the dashboard for the emissions management, here at a very high level, we see the overall roll-up of the emissions of the organization that has been broken down into various scope categories. And the whole goal of this application and the tools that are given to the users is to allow them to slice and dice the data to be able to narrow down and see where they need to focus their attention in when it comes to reducing their emissions. So we offer various controls. For example, this company, for example, they can dive into where the emissions are distributed across the world. We can see their various production intensity targets. They can compare their trends on the various intensity as it goes through various months, and all of these tools are essentially designed to allow the end users focus on what matters most. So, for example, here they can quickly identify that maybe the top 5 of my assets can contribute are contributing to 50% of my emissions, and maybe focus their effort toward that. At a high level, they can see the total breakdown of all the different categories, including scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. If we dive into the specific view for scope 1 emissions, which is the direct emissions from the fuel combustion that the organization controls, there are various categories that they can drill into over here. For example, the ones that are reported over here. And all this has been set up at the time of the customer onboarding by when we integrate their data sources, we are classifying the data and categorizing it so that as the organization is going about their operations, this data is continuously flowing and these dashboards are getting updated. So various similar views and similar controls to allow them to see where to focus their attention. This is a view focused on scope 2, which is the emissions from the indirect, like electricity consumption. They can view their renewables conversion and similar controls as we saw in the previous screens. So scope 3 has various categories. There are about 11 or 12 categories, and this offers a breakdown of the various categories with individual views focused on, for example, this is the use of sold products, right? So they can see which products are contributing to the overall emission of the organization. So while we do all this, data quality is one of the key aspects of the overall solution. So the data that is used to compute the emissions is not always the cleanest to work with. So we have to ensure that data quality and accuracy controls are in place. So this gives a high-level end-user focused view, but inside Foundry, we do have data health checks, monitoring views, and PagerDuty integrations to alert the data source owners to take proactive measures when there are issues. But this offers a more end-user focused view where they can, for example, dive in and see that some facility data has not come in, and they can chase down the data owners to get that information in place. Accuracy controls are in place. We do detect outliers. For example, if I click on one of the countries over here, I can drill down and see the data has been flagged. For example, this one is maybe out of range compared based on some data science that is running in the Foundry backend. So a lot of this that I showed till now is coming from data that is flowing through from the source systems, but we do offer the ability also for the end users to upload some data. For example, there are some sources that were not integrated initially when the system got onboarded, when the organization got onboarded, so they might have CSV files and other things that they need to upload. So this is what this screen allows them to directly, say, upload some data for particular facilities. So in this case, I'm just going through a demo of a CSV that somebody might upload. It just shows one row, but that can vary as depending on the amount of data that the user wants to upload. So when I hit submit over here, this is actually invoking the Foundry dataset APIs to upload the data into a dataset, and then we have schedules in place that will trigger and process the data, and then eventually it will show up back in the calculations. So once the data gets processed over here, it will show up in what we refer to as the activity data. So if I go down to select a particular facility, for example, So this data is all categorized based on the months that has, like for example, electricity bills and fuel combustion, right? So we also offer data lineage views. So for auditing reasons, we need to be able to explicitly show how the calculations were done from the data in the source to how we computed the emissions. So this is a end user focused view again, but of course if the auditor wants to drill down, the detailed lineage is back in Foundry also. So with that, I'd like to hand over to Tom to go through the next.
Thank you. Thanks, Debashish. So as we've seen, SLB have built a really impressive platform for their customers with Foundry and the ontology at its core, but then using the OSDK and the platform APIs and SDKs to create an entirely custom front end. I think a good question to ask now is, what's the difference between OSDK and the platform SDK? I know a lot of my colleagues have been asking me that, so I'm sure you're all thinking the same thing. So each OSDK is uniquely generated for a specific ontology. What that gives you is the ability to program using the nouns and verbs of your business. And that's a fantastic concept in itself. But there's a lot of surface area still there across Foundry AIP that you might want to interact with programmatically. Users and groups, data sets, builds, schedules, the list goes on. And that's where the platform SDK comes into play. So let's suppose that you want to automate a series of routine admin tasks. Maybe like SLB, you want to allow your customers to self-serve data connection, but you don't want them to need to know about Foundry. You want to put that into a custom application. Maybe you want to manage all your infrastructure as code, and you want to include Foundry in that. So all these use cases and many more, that's what we're trying to target with the platform SDK. If you want to browse some of the APIs that are already available, head over to palantir.com/docs, which is where I am now, and then you just click into View API Reference, and you can see here that we've already got a fair few APIs that are out, and we've got a lot more coming soon. What I'm going to demo to you today, I'm going to use a couple of those that are already available, and then I'm also going to use an API that's one of our newer ones that's going to be released imminently. So before I do this demo and do the actual coding, I want to set the scene a little bit. So let's imagine that I'm a wholesaler of ice cream ingredients. I have thousands of customers making millions of orders each day. And what I'd like to build for them is a portal where they can place their orders and also track the progress of those orders. Now, for some of my smaller customers, maybe just a form-based entry of their orders is fine. But that's not going to scale for my bigger customers. I've had my bigger customers coming to me saying, look, my orders are in my ERP system or they're in my data lake in AWS. And as those orders are changing, I want that connected into your portal so that I don't have to have manual step like regularly re-uploading that data. I just want the changes to be reflected directly. So I'd like to be able to offer them that ability to connect into their systems from this portal that I'm building. What I've got here is a simple pipeline. Everything I'm going to show here is much, much, much simpler than what Debashish has shown you for the purposes of demoing, but it's analogous. So we've got a data pipeline. This is for processing the orders. We can see at the beginning of this pipeline, I've got my products table. So this is my data. These are my products. So I've already got that in. So we've got that populated. But then I've got my orders table, and this is what I want my customers to be bringing in. So at the moment, that's empty. And the purpose of this exercise is to work out how can we wire things up so that that can be connected and bring in data live from customer systems. Then the pipeline will run some logic, maybe some models. It'll output some things at the end. Maybe it's going to tell my customers the status of their order, what the approximate delivery date is going to be, and so on. And what we can do, as SLB have done, and many others of our customers and people you've seen this morning have shown you, is that we can package up this entire pipeline along with the ontology using Marketplace and then deploy a fresh one of these each time we onboard a new customer. So the next thing I want to take a look at, we've got the data. So this is the customers now. For the purpose of the demo, we're assuming that the customer's got a data lake in AWS, their data sitting in S3 buckets. And amongst a few other different tables, we've got a table in here called orders. So that orders table is what we're going to be trying to help them connect to and pull in. And the final little bit of setup that we need to do before we can start coding, a couple of people showed this earlier today as well. Inside Foundry in the developer console, we need to build a third-party application. That third-party application is what's going to give us an API service user that we can use to make all of our connections to Foundry. And it's going to use OAuth 2 to handle all of the authorization for us, and the SDK will then abstract away a lot of that. And one of the neat things that we can also take a look at here is that if we look at the resources tab, and this is a beta feature which is coming soon, but as we're creating this, you may have an OSDK, which is specific to your ontology, and you want to augment that and say, in addition to working with my ontology, I want a few of the platform SDK features, but you want to reduce the scope on that. You might not want, for example, to bring in the admin API, which allows someone to interact with users and groups. So you want to reduce your scope just to what's required for this application. So in my case, I've opted in for the datasets API, the connectivity API, and the orchestration API, which are the things that I'm going to demo with. So we've got that third-party application. I think we're ready to code. Here I am. I'm in VS Code. This is on my laptop. I've got a local node server running here, so this is all for development purposes. Once this is all done and ready, these kind of applications can be deployed on your own production web servers, or there's also a hosting option from within our platform as well. I've got a very simple React app here. It's a one-page React app. Again, very simplified, but just to get across the point. I've built the skeleton of the application. We can kind of click through it here. We've got like a landing page. We've got a products page. But what I haven't done is wired any of this up back to Foundry yet. This is all just sitting, running locally here, and it's not got any connectivity. So what I'm going to try and demo is connecting it back into the application and pulling the data and uploading data and so on. So we've got orders. None of this is showing anything. We've also got this little section here for creating a file import, and that's what we're going to implement. Right, let's check this is actually all working. The first simple thing to do here is I'm going to edit. We've got this welcome message. So I'm just going to change that from hello world to hello devcon to see if it's working. And it looks like it's good. We've had a few AIP cons. I thought we could have called this one API con, but they decided they were going to go with devcon, but there we go. All right, looks like we're live. So you'll see that on the left-hand side of my screen here, that little kind of built-in browser inside VS Code is going to keep refreshing itself. As I type, don't be worried, there'll be quite a few errors coming up because as the code's going in live, it will be wrong for a bit, but hopefully I'll get it right, and then we'll see things come into play there. So the very first step is I want to use that service user that I've created. I want to create an OAuth 2 client, and this is going to be the session that I'm just going to use for the purposes here. So with the SDK, we've got a function to create a confidential OAuth client, and what we need to provide that with, and we can see that we're getting some useful code completion suggestions here, is the client ID, which was what, and also a client secret. Both of those you get when you create your third-party application. We need the base URL of that, so that's the Foundry stack that I'm going to connect to. And then we also get the option here to provide some more scope. So although I've already scoped down the user, I could scope this session even further down if I wanted to. I've got those pre-configured. So now I've got that one line of code hides a multitude of complexity. Anyone who's had to work with OAuth 2 flows, I think, will attest to there's a lot of things going on under the hood there. We've packaged that all up into a single line, and then you can use that, and that will handle those handshakes under the hood for you. So now we've got the OAuth client. I need to create a platform client. This is going to be the thing that actually allows me to interact with Foundry. So again, we've got a function here. It's called create platform client. So I'm going to grab that. That also needs a base URL, and then I'm just going to give it my OAuth client that I created before. So having done that, none of that's influenced anything yet. We've still got, there's no errors at least, so I've typed the right code. That's a good start. But nothing's actually been implemented yet inside my little application here. So let's do something which is actually going to show up and make a difference. So I want to get back the contents of the product table so I can show it here. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to await, because this is an asynchronous call to the platform, and I'm going to use the datasets API. So this is our TypeScript SDK, and it's all strongly typed, so I get lots of nice suggestions. So the first thing I'm going to do is do a read table. When I read the table, I'm going to need the client. Then I'm also going to need a dataset read. So for this one, because this is my products one, I've neatly hard-coded that in, but I've got the product dataset read. And then I've got a couple more things that need to be provided here. Most of these are optional, but one thing I want to know is what columns I want. If I just give it an empty list, it will bring back all the columns. And then it also wants to know what format I want to pull that data back in. And again, it can suggest I can get it in Apache Arrow or in CSV. I'll just grab that as CSV. That should be it. So that one line of code is going to go and read the data from the products data set and bring it back. And then having implemented that, hopefully now if I click on the products tab, we should see the products loading. And there we have it. So we've now got a list of all the products coming back from that table. I'm going to be lazy now. I'm going to grab what I wrote there because it's basically the same exercise, but I want to just implement that next tab, my orders tab. So if I just put that there, I just need to change the data set grid. So I want to bring back the orders data set. Okay, no more errors. However, this is going to load some data, but it's going to load an empty table because that's the data that we want to upload. Right, so the final step now, I want to actually come in and implement this piece where beyond just sort of a customer adding one order at a time or even uploading a CSV file, as we saw from Debashish's demo, they're going to connect live to their system and they're going to schedule that as well. I'd like to allow them to set a schedule so that maybe every hour, every couple of hours, they can have that data coming in. So the first thing we need to do is create a file import. So we're going to say file import equals, and we've got the file imports API. So let's grab that, file imports create. And you'll see that we have the CRUD operations are the core of what we provide. There are some custom operations as well, but we've tried to, with the platform API, keep it as clean and simple as possible so that you can operate with it as you would expect to be able to. So create is a standard operation on most of these kind of resources. So again, we're going to need the client. We're going to want to have a connection grid. So that's just the name of the source that I want to connect to. And then I've got a body that I need to fill in here. So in the body, I want to put in a display name. So we're going to call this, let's just call this orders. I'm going to need a dataset grid. So this is now the target. So this is saying, where do I want the data that I'm importing to land? So it's going to be that same orders dataset grid. I need a format. I need an import mode. So it's going to show me the possibilities here. So for the purpose of the demo, I'm going to do a snapshot. So each time the data comes in, I'll just take a clean version of it. But we could do append, so you could pull in incremental versions of the data. And finally, I need some file import filters because you saw there was a big bucket of data. I need to actually choose which, and give the user the option to choose which file they want to set up the import for. So we have a few different types of file import filters. So doesn't like me because this should be a list. And if I get that right, then this should now, yeah. I can have a path matches filter, which just allows me to set a regular expression. And I'm going to grab the file name that the user's typed in or an empty string if they haven't typed anything in. The last thing I need to remember to do here is that this particular API, this is the one I referenced earlier, is it's still in preview mode. So I just need to set preview equals true, and I'll just copy that because I'm going to probably do that for a couple of other ones. Right, now what I need to do is schedule the recurrent runs. So I don't actually need to store the result of this, but I'm going to do schedules. Again, we've got a create operation. We need the client for that. And then two different things we need when we create a schedule. We need the action that we want to take when that schedule triggers, and we want the trigger for what's going to make it happen. So with the action, what I want to do is force this to build. So I'm going to set force build to true, and then I need a target. So again, there's a few different types of target, but I'm going to make this a manual target, and then I actually need like the RID. So I could have a number of different things that I'm building. In this case, I just want to build one thing, which is my orders data set. And then in terms of the trigger, there's actually, again, lots of different types of triggers that you could set up. Everything you can do in the platform, and everything you could do with a click of a button, we want to make that programmable. So let's have a look at what different types I've got. If I just pop in type here and have a look at what's available to me. Time is what I want to have. And if I'm doing a time trigger, I need a time zone. I've got one of those hard-coded. And then it wants a cron expression. So I'm just going to, I've got a little function that will convert what the user's given me into a cron expression. And then I've got my schedule hours. So that's looking pretty good. I think this one also needs just to put in preview as true. The code doesn't look too happy just yet. have we gone wrong? So that's okay. Yeah, I just need to put preview to outside there. The perils of live coding. Hopefully this is keeping you all awake in the post-lunch lull. Right, that's all done. And the last bit I want to do here is actually, it is going to be scheduled. It's going to run however often the user wants to do it, but it's going to be interesting to demo. I want to make sure that I actually kick off a run of this straight away, and we can actually monitor how that's doing. So when I trigger this to run, it's going to give me back the RID of a build. So I'm going to just use the file imports again. And one of the operations we have on that is to execute. So now we're actually getting into like the quite simple SDK steps, because I just want to get the RID of the file import that I already created. So it's just on there. It's just file import.rid. Don't forget to preview that one. So I've got my build RID. Then inside my while loop, I want to wait, and while the import status is still running, again, we've got like the suggestions of what that might be because it knows the type. It's all strongly typed. I'm going to need to basically grab the build itself. So now we're going across to the builds. Build. We're going to get the build and with the client. And all I need for this is just the build RID that I got earlier. So that's a nice simple call there. So having been given back that, I can set my import status to build.status, and I can, what else I want to do? I want to, I've got a global thing for this as well, so I can set that to build.status, and that should be sufficient. So there we go. That's the more complex part of it. Like, we already implemented pulling back the two different tables, but now what we've tried to implement is actually setting up this live connection. Let's see if it works. Moment of truth. So the name of the file we saw that was in that folder is orders.csv. Let's say every 3 hours we want to schedule that. So we can go and check that schedule's been set. And now we're going to hit run import. Is something going to happen? Yes. Right, we've got a little spinning wheel there. Let's jump over back into Foundry. So here we've got the orders data set. There's nothing in it at the moment, but we can see it saying at the top, this data set is currently being updated. So that's bringing in the data. Whilst it is updating it, I just want to prove that the schedule settings worked as well. So if we come and have a look on the schedules tab over there, hopefully this is big enough for you to see. Down here, we've got a schedule at 0 minutes past the hour every 3 hours. So it's set the schedule on there. If I pop back over to here, we can see that this has succeeded. So we've got the feedback there. And hopefully then, if we refresh this, we'll see that the data is being pulled into Foundry. So that's now set up the ingest, pull the data in. And over here, we can see that we're going to get some of the orders back in for the customer as well, having been processed through their order processing pipeline. There we have it. In the space of about 5 minutes, I probably ran over slightly there. I was explaining more than I intended to. In the space of about 5 minutes, I've added to an entirely custom application all the power of Foundry's data connection and scheduling capabilities. And I've done it in a way that is opinionated, that's on Rails. My customer doesn't have to know or care about Foundry. They're just going to be able to interact with my application. I can set that up how I want, but I've got the power of all of that functionality of Foundry at my fingertips, and I can bring that in. So imagine what you could do in a day, in a week, and so on. Thanks. That's what we've got. I'm just going to hand it back.
Yeah. Excellent. So yeah. So tying it back to the demo that I showed, the last part of it, I can imagine that we can improve our user workflow to democratize the connections a little bit, which typically has been an admin operation, so that the users can now simplify the life a little bit and just connect to these buckets or whatever. And we can also give meaningful progress by monitoring the builds and show them a status of what happens when they upload the data and while the data shows up in the UI. Excellent. Thanks.
Just up on screen at the moment to conclude, we've got what's available now. You can see over there, and as I said earlier as well, palantir.com/docs. You can look at all the documentation for that. What we've got coming soon, I showed off the connectivity API there. Some interesting ones to call out, maybe working with streams, so you can create a stream and publish streaming records to Foundry. AIP agents, so actually programmatically interacting with the agents that you've created in Agent Studio. That's all available. Media, so documents and images. These are all coming soon. I was working with a TypeScript SDK. We've already got a Python SDK available for you as well for the platform APIs. And coming soon, we'll have a Java SDK, which we know a lot of people are interested in.